Okay, welcome. Tanya, today we're going to do chapters 30, 31, and 32, Bezrat Hashem, which is quite a an ambitious bite. But just as a quick heads up, is the way this share is meant to, is it's meant to be in my mind, it's basically a what's the word? Not a diving board is not the right word. A point of entry.
Springboard.
Springboard, thank you. A springboard for you guys for um your own personal investment into it. It's that's what it's meant to be like. We go through a lot of ideas, and to get these ideas like into us, each if we're going to discuss like 20 ideas, they should all really be discussed each one as a whole class into itself to get to get the idea in. So that's where I'm coming from with these classes. They're not meant to be, John Michael. They're meant to be, like we said, like Abby said, a springboard into your own personal investment into the ideas. So okay. So chapters 30, 31, 32, I titled them as Me, You, and God. Okay. Chapter 30 is about humility. Chapter 31 is about Shvira. And then 32 is the famous chapter in the Tanya, which is about Ahavas Yisrael. It's very famous, like probably the most famous, not probably, it's for sure the most famous chapter in Tanya. Okay. So chapter 30, chapter 30. If you remember chapter 29, we've basically the Rebbe is prescribing, we're in the chapters of Simcha, and the Rebbe is prescribing us how the Simcha is a prerequisite for avodas Hashem. Anybody who wants to hazard a definition of Simcha? Two words, two Hebrew words gives us the perfect definition of Simcha. Anyone got that for us? No? Yitzi, you got a definition of Simcha? Two Hebrew words? Psichas alev. That's Simcha. Simcha means your heart is open, it means you're emotionally available. That's Simcha. So a person who's besimcha will also be able to be bekas, his emotions are flying. So he can love deeply, he can also hate deeply as well. A guy who's betimtum with timtum alev, which is the opposite psichas alev, yeah, just like he doesn't love anyone, he can't hate anyone as well. He just doesn't have any emotional energy available to him. Okay. So simcha is psichas alev. It's emotional availability. And that is a prerequisite for avodas Hashem. If you are not emotionally available, then you're gonna have a hard time serving Hashem. So we're going through these very kind of stark prakim, and chapter 29 is probably the most stark parak in Tanya, where he basically talks about how you splinter this complacency within yourself, this timtum alev, where you're not emotionally available either because of sadness or because of complacency. Either way, it's the same kind of thing. And he goes through this kind of like breaking down of myself where I kind of analyze myself in a very harsh, judgmental way and take myself to task on the fact that I've got nothing to be complacent about, put it that way. I've got nothing to be smug about. My avodas Hashem is not particularly impressive, and I can push harder. Now, one of the hardest things for me to hear is when someone says I tried my best. I don't say it to them, but like, how can you ever say that? Can't ever say you tried your best. Never. It's like the toothpaste, there's always a little bit left in the toothpaste thing, yeah? So you can never say I tried my best. It's like I only remember like one time in my 45 years of life where there was no more toothpaste to take out of the tube, There's always a little bit more. So how can you ever say I did my best? And I would never ever dream of saying that ever. So that's the point is that we're not if we become complacent and if we feel like you'll hear people say, how's Parnassa? We could be doing better. Yeah, and in the same breath, you'd say, how's Ruchnias? They'd be, that's fine, Baruch Hashem. We've got this going, got the Daf Yomi, got this share, that share. I'm learning great, that's great. Parnassa could always be better. Yeah, we should say the opposite way. Yeah, Ruchnias could always be better. We could be investing ourselves deeper. We could be investing ourselves with more truth, with more lishma, with more bikush, with more energy, with more selflessness, etc. So he says you take yourself to task, and that way you can break yourself down, and then you're going to be available. You will be available eventually for emotional service. Okay, the next stage, and this is the entrance into chapter 30. Once we've become Zibrochen, yeah, we've smashed ourselves to the point where really what the key term here is we have become definitionless. We've broken our definition of ourselves. Things aren't okay. Yeah, your avodas Hashem is not okay. You need a big, just like in marriage. Imagine if a person feels like he's doing okay in his marriage, where what kind of Gehenna that's going to lead to. You always need to be feeling that there's a lot more to go. That doesn't mean you have to feel bad or depressed about that at all. But always just feeling that there's a lot. We've got a long way to go, Baruch Hashem, and we're going to do that. So once we've broken ourselves down, and we've gotten to this place where we're kind of broken. Now the Rebbe goes to the next stage. And this is so not counterintuitive, it's so contrary to what the world tells us now. And the Rebbe says, well, the Mishnah says, he quotes the Mishnah, feel yourself to be shaful ruach. I don't know of a good translation for that. You should see yourself as shaful ruach bifnei kol adam. And it's funny because the Rebbe brings the lashon bifnei kol ha'adam. Everyone knows that in the Gemara it says atem kurim adam. Yeah, you Yisrael are called adam, and the Odei Kochavim are not called adam. They're called ha'adam. Ha'adam with a hay at the beginning gives the idea of there's a hafrada, there's a separation, fragmentation. Whereas by the Yidden, you're called Adam, meaning you're just one big man, so to speak. Yeah, one big neshama. We'll talk about that in another few minutes, B'ezrat Hashem, Lamed Beis. So the Rebbe who made his Perish and Mishnah, he made the Siddur, so he included Pirkei Avos in the Siddur, and he chose the lashon ha'adam, meaning you should see yourself shafar ruach b'fnei kol ha'adam. Every single person in the world, you should see yourself as lower, inferior, insignificant. I don't know the right word for it, but all of those things. In front of every human being in the world, Yid, Goy, whatever. Imagine that.
Humbled spirit, no?
Shafar humbled spirit means, in a sense, lower. Shalom Chaim, long time. So it means that however you want to describe, it means you should see yourself as being lower or less than everybody else. Imagine that. Imagine a psychologist in 2024, wow, saying to you should see yourself as lower than every single person who exists. So he gives you some eights. I'm going to say this quite quickly. It's very passionate. Basically, how can you do that? How can you see yourself as the lowest of the? How can you see yourself lower than the lowest of the low? By just putting into it the concept of relativity. And if you were born into their life situation, you probably wouldn't be doing much better than them. Yeah, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Yeah, you got good parents, you grew up in a good neighborhood, there was money, you weren't involved in crime, and etc. etc. So there's that's the basic that's the basic one second, wait for my son to just get out of here. Okay, that's the basic way that we're able to see ourselves as less than everybody by plugging in to the scenario, the concept of relativity. And that shows us that our avoider, we've spoken about this before in parent 15, that our avoider is not about the results, it's about the energy. It's about the energy we expend. And you can put in all the energy in the world and end up looking much less than a guy who's hardly putting in any energy. And that's the point, is we're not talking about the actual behavior, we're talking about the energy that goes into the behavior. And with that, not dynamic, what's the word? Criteria, we're able to actually genuinely see ourselves as less than anybody. Now, a very important point, by the way, that doesn't putter the guy who's messing up. Yeah, he still has free will, and from himself, he should be seeing himself also as Shafar Ruach B'fnei Kol Ha'adam. Two, this is my own thing here, but this is a very helpful thing that I've come to, is when it comes to any interaction with people, if we can limit ourselves to 2 questions, yeah, we will be in a very emotionally healthy place. And the 2 questions are, what can I learn from you, or how can I help you? Nothing else. Not how do I compare to you? Am I richer than you? Am I poorer than you? Am I cleverer than you? Am I less this, that, all the other things, yeah? Limit yourself to those 2 questions. How can I help you? Or how can I learn from you? And there are going to be people who you can help more than learn from. And there's going to be people who you can learn more from than help. And if we limit our questions to those 2, whenever we start feeling some kind of negativity towards ourselves because of someone else, get back, you'll realize that you've strayed from those 2 questions. You're now asking something like, how do I compare to him? Or why is his car fancier than my car? I hope no one's holding there. But those inyanim, yeah, if we stray from those 2 questions, then those are really the only 2 questions we should be asking. How can I learn from you, or how can I help you? Okay, that was just a side point. We will severely limit the Yetzer Hara, the damage the Yetzer Hara can do to us if we limit it to those 2 questions. Now, this is a very important point. Anybody has a definition for us of self-esteem?
An acknowledgement or a visual on your ego, on your inner being.
So I've been reading this book. I got recommended, Yoli recommended it to me, called The 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. You heard of this book? It's as boring as hell, but it's a really, really good book. It's really very good, but it's you really pushing to get through it. Anyway,
Stay out of marketing things.
he said, and it's beautiful. The definition of self-esteem is a feeling of appropriateness for life. I fell in love with that. A feeling I am appropriate for life. I can do it. If you believe in God, then you believe that you'll get Siyata Dishmaya and he'll help you. If you don't believe in God, you believe that you've got the innate koiches that will help you navigate through life's challenges and do what you need to do, etc. But a feeling of appropriateness for life. And this is so important because now we understand that you can feel less than everyone in the whole world and not compromise your emotional integrity, your emotional well-being, your self-esteem. Self-esteem is not, I'm better than him. It's got nothing to do with any comparison whatsoever. It's an internal hachlata that I am appropriate for life. Hashem created me in the way he created me, with the koiches that he created me with, and he will give me the siyata d'shmaya that I need to be able to navigate through any test that he sends me. That's it. How can you not feel empowered to live if you really be mispointed on that? So it's really a very important thing to keep in mind, that you are able to see yourself as less than everyone else. I remember, who was it? Excuse me. It was I can't remember. I can't remember who. One of the big tzaddikim. I've seen it. I've seen it with a few tzaddikim. Is when they shake your hand. Yeah, they look at you like they shake your hand and they're enraptured by you. That you've ever had such an experience by a tzaddik who's just like he was much more impressed with you than you were with him. Much more impressed. That's how we should be treating people. We should be in awe of everyone. I mean, all you need to do is learn a few pages of the Oitzus Chaim. Just number one, to realize that the tsura, the form of a human being, the form of a man, is the ultimate diagram of reality. Mamash. You learn Kabbalah 101, learn Oitzus Chaim, you'll understand that the original form, which had no form, that everything comes from, has a head and eyes. It's called Adam, Kadmon. It has a nose, mouth, ears, beard, a chest, a belly button, Ava, legs, feet, hands. It's the perfect. Every time you're looking at a human being, you are looking at a diagram of all of reality. Not just it's mamash, a diagram of reality. That in the first place should already put you in awe of every human being. And then to plug in, every person's had their own peckle, their own situation. Everyone's gone through their own nisyonis and they've learned their own things. And they've got their own way of seeing stuff, etc., etc. And to be genuinely impressed by everyone, and we can do that. We can do that. So that doesn't what's the word? That doesn't impact our ability to feel emotionally stable and our self-esteem. It doesn't. They're not kashur zelazeh bichlal. Okay, that's basically chapter 30. Okay, see yourself as lower than everybody, and don't worry about it because that's not going to affect you if you've got your head on your shoulders and you understand that you are appropriate for life and you can do it. Okay, so chapter 1, chapter 31, he goes further. We've discussed these ideas outside in other classes, but he's talking about now, if you do everything that we've mentioned in these past couple of chapters, he's worried that the Rebbe is worried that you're going to fall into atzvus, into depression. You're looking at yourself as lower than everybody in the world. In your own self, you've decided that you could be doing a lot better in your avodas Hashem, and really you've got nothing at all to be smug about. So the Rebbe is like, okay, don't worry, why not? And now he makes the chiluk. We've learned about this, but we'll say it again here because this is where it all came from. Is the difference in atzvus and merirus. Anybody remember the share we gave about the stages, the 5 stages of the heart? I called it redemption of the heart. Did you remember that?
Bits and pieces, the shviras halev, the rebuilding of the lev, and you know.
So it goes. There's a 5-part process. You begin at a level what's called timtum halev. Yeah, you're emotionally unavailable. Yeah, you can't even get angry at someone when you're betimtum halev. Yeah, you've got no energy. That's timtum. That's what he was talking about the past couple of chapters. Now you break your definition of who you are. Yeah, now we enter into the holy state of shviras halev. Shviras halev means you're without definition. That was what Avram said, Anochi Offer v'Efer. He was constantly incinerating what he became. Offer means like, dirt, mud, like earth. And Afer is ash. So Anochi Offer v'Efer means when I became this fertile ground for growth, I incinerated it, mamash. I destroyed my definition of myself. We really should strive to not define ourselves in any way, and not define relationships, and not define other people as well.
I was thinking about this yesterday, just this exact thing about not defining oneself, yet in the same time I'm trying to daven that I myself am the best version of myself in the titles that I have. And I don't know if those are the definitions of the titles, but as a father, as a husband, as a Talmud, as a Eved Hashem, is that a definition of oneself, or are those merely just like levushim, or just merely just titles that we have to fulfill our tafkid in life?
Yeah. So they're not; those are not definitions of yourself. A definition of yourself is I'm an angry person. I'm a Baltiver. I can't do anything. I can never get it right. Yeah, the fact that your father, wow, I've got a busy show today. The fact that your father, I'll tell you that if you want to just really plug it in, an important thing to remember is being a father is not a role. And being a husband is not a role. Anybody who's trying to be a good husband is doomed to fail. And anyone who's trying to be a good father is doomed to fail. The perspective is my wife or my children. The minute your relationship with your children becomes about you, about me being a good father, yeah, there's going to be a lot of trouble. It's not about me being a good father. And that's why on Shabbos, see, you could describe the week as playing all these different roles. Yeah. Shabbos, you let go of all the roles. Like Hashem, that's called Menucha. You go back to the source of who you are, which is the essence of where all those roles come from. So Shabbos, you let go of all the roles. You're not a photographer. You're not an accountant. You're not a lawyer. You're Menucha. You go back to the white light of who you are. But on Shabbos, you'll see that you're more of a father and more of a husband than any other time in the week. Yeah, Shema Minah, these aren't roles. This is the essence of who you are. Your relationship with your children, your relationship with your wife. It's not about being a good husband. It's not about being a good father. It's about my children. It's about my wife. That's it. That's a very, very healthy. Everyone understood that? I said it kind of quickly. Everyone's clear on that? So that's not one. That's not. I just went off on a side point there. But that's also, these are not definitions of who you are. Yeah, definitions of who you are, like we said, is a limiting thing where you say I am an alcoholic, although the AA people say that that's something you should say. But anyway, we're talking more about this is the inyan of Shviras HaLev, is the breaking of the definitions of who we are. I think that's why Abraham had a tent that was open on four sides. He wasn't defined. He wasn't the Magain Avraham. The Magain means this surrounding wall. Hashem's called the Magain Avraham. I mean, he was defined by Hashem. So he could be whatever he needed to be according to the job at hand. So anyway, so we have Atzvos, or we have Timtum HaLev, then we have Shviras HaLev, then we have Meriras HaLev, then we have Psichas HaLev, then we have Tuv Levo. But what the Rebbe does in this chapter here, chapter 31, is he explains the difference between Atzvos and Meriras HaLev, between Timtum HaLev and Meriras HaLev.
Sorry, what's the fifth one? Psichas HaLev after Psichas HaLev?
It's called Tuv Levav. The difference between Timtum HaLev and Meriras HaLev is Timtum HaLev is when you're blocked, the heart's blocked, there's no emotional energy whatsoever. Meriras HaLev is the feeling of this has to change. This has to change. So it's not that, oh, I'm feeling so sorry for myself. Look at who I've become. Oy vey, look at who I am. Look where I've fallen to. V'chulei. It's the exact opposite side of the coin. It's this needs to change. I need to pull myself together. I need to stop doing X. I need to start doing Y. I must. This is no longer negotiable. This is an emergency. This is an emergency. That's Meriras HaLev. It's not Timtum HaLev Bichlal. It's not a lifelessness. It's the exact opposite. It's lifefulness. It's that clenching of your fist and that realigning yourself with this is going to be different from now on. Enough, finished. So that's what the Rebbe is saying. So if you've done this correctly, this process of breaking yourself down and then seeing yourself as lower than everybody else, etc., you will not, what the experience will be is not going to be an experience of Timtum Alev, it's going to be an experience of Merirus Alev. Because again, the whole thing is putting yourself away from you. You're seeing everybody else. When you say you see yourself as Shafar Ruch B'fnei Kol Ha'adam, it means you're seeing the Mila of the other person. You're seeing the gewaldicness of every other person. The whole point is the Rebbe is trying to get you out of yourself. When you're wallowing in your own lowly state, yeah, that's called Atzvus, that's called Timtum Alev. But when you're going through the same emotional kind of chemical feeling, but the perspective is outwards, you're looking outward, that leads to Merirus Alev. And that means that now I can change and I can go forward. I'm not a prisoner to who I was, which is the worst kind of prison. So he basically says the way that we do it, just to summarize the whole thing, is you have to validate the fact that you've got a long way to go. Okay, there's a lot of work to do. Okay, then you have to recognize that this sadness that we're feeling, or this negativity, we should say, this kind of negative energy that we're experiencing, that's to do with the Nefesh Bahamis, not with the Nefesh Elokis. And we're going to explain this clearly in a minute. Then he says to visualize how Kol Zman we are living through the eyes of the Nefesh Bahamis, through the egoic eyes, through the eyes of our human condition. The Nefesh Elokis, which is what makes us Jewish, is basically in a dungeon. He describes it as like a dungeon. You're either expressing your Nefesh Elokis, you're expressing your Nefesh Bahamis. You're either expressing your human side or you're expressing your godly side. Can't really be expressing both of them at the same time. So that feeling of the Nefesh Elokis being in prison, or so to speak, the visual that he gives you on that, is what he says allows you to generate Rahmanas. Rahmanas leads to a feeling of well, it really leads to a feeling of love. I don't want to go there actually, but this idea of empathizing and having Rahmanas on the Nefesh Elokis is what's going to allow you to actually move forward. Okay, so he says the commitment comes, the commitment of what we're talking about, this Merirus Alev, this commitment to go forward, is really generated from having Rahmanas on the godly aspect, on the Nefesh Elokis that's in you, that's not having the opportunity to express herself. That's really where he gives you basically the mechanics of how the Merirus Alev works. Okay, I didn't get into it too much. I don't want to get into it too much right now. I want to keep moving, but that's basically the energy, the resolve that comes through is from a Rahmanas that we have on the Nefesh Elokis, which is what allows us to make this commitment to move forward and to not stagnate and to stay in the same complacent or depressed situation that we're in beforehand. And then he explains that this is the true simcha of the prince returning to the king. The prince was in jail for however many years, is released from the jail and brought back to his father, the king. Yeah, that's what he talks about as the simcha of the Nefesh Elokis that comes out of the jail. But what he says very importantly is that with all of this avoida, this disidentification with the Nefesh Bahamis, the breaking of the Nefesh Bahamis and the moving forward in your commitment to serve Hashem, you haven't fixed the Nefesh Bahamis. Anybody knows what it means, the fixing of the Nefesh Bahamis?
Replace it with the Nefesh Elikus.
Mm,
Isn't that the ultimate avodah for like even a Beinoni to a tzaddik is?
Well, yeah, for a tzaddik would be described as a person who basically either he did it or God did it, changed his nefesh abamis into nefesh elokis. But that's not really our job. We have it's one word. One word. Our relationship to nefesh abamis.
Tikkun?
Good. Better word. Chinuch.
Mm.
We are here to be mahanach our lower side.
Isn't training a better word?
Training machanech.
I mean, chinuch implies that it understands. Isn't it more submission?
Well, no. Well, I mean, just as an example, we've spoken about this with tefillah. The experience of tefillah is meant to be that the nefesh of Bahamas is meant to be sitting there watching the nefesh of Akis and become a little bit inspired to pray. It's if you call it training or chinuch, fine. The nefesh of Bahamas is not really a behemoth. I mean, he is a behemoth, but he's a human. You know, he's really a human. We just call him nefesh of Bahamas, but we also call him nefesh achiyunis. But the idea is to be machanach the nefesh of Bahamas. Right now, we haven't done that. Right now, we've just kind of shut it up. We deflated it. We managed to subdue it. And there's a big difference between an animal that's been subdued and an animal that's been trained. A very big difference.
It's our job to be mechanech the Nefesh of Bahamas to take on the actions of the Nefesh Elikus.
Or just become more refined. To become more refined, to be more selfless, to be more to be less pleasure oriented, to be more long term, what's the word?
Goal oriented, long term goal oriented. Yeah.
That's the chinuch of the nefesh of Bahamas. We're here to be mechanech the nefesh of Bahamas. Some people are mechanech, train, whatever. But that's what we're trying to do. So this situation that we're in right now, we've just broken the nefesh of Bahamas. We smashed it, we deflated it, but we didn't excuse me. We didn't like make him more supple. We didn't train him. We didn't bring him up. We just kind of deflated him. So this isn't really the long-term avoider of the Nefesh of Bahamas. The long-term avoider of the Nefesh of Bahamas is this, is a lifelong training program where we are doing whatever kind of avoiders we need to do. Like, for example, something I do with my kids, I started to do this recently, my little kids, is they wanted a candy. So I just thought I'd have fun. And I'd say, look, if you want, I'll give you a candy right now. Or if you go now without a candy, you come back from Cheder, I'll give you 3 candies when you come back from Cheder. Watch the kid. Watch what happens to the child. It's amazing. I saw there was they did an experiment. It's quite a famous experiment. The kid with the marshmallows. You seen this? Yeah, they put a kid with the marshmallow there. They said, okay, you sit there. You can eat it if you want. If you can wait 5 minutes, you get 2 marshmallows. And they got all these videos of these kids, like 4-year-old kids, like licking it and smelling it, and and then would just stick it in his mouth. Or the other one's like sitting there with his hands under his legs, just like looking around like this, whatever. But this is the definition of what Rav Manis gave. The definition of narcissism is you can't even do something for your future self. That's already a level of selflessness, being able to put your future self ahead of your immediate self. So that's a level of training of the Nefesh of Bahamas. To be able to just say to the Nefesh of Bahamas, you'll get your chocolate milk, but let's wait. Let's do it in an hour. That's already a level of chinuch for the Nefesh of Bahamas. That was a victory. If you can do that, you were victorious, and you managed to bring the Nefesh of Bahamas a little bit more in line with the Nefesh of Akis. That he's not just running by his emotions; he's now running more by his seichel. That's a victory. And he describes that basically as Yetzias Mitzrayim. Because when we came out of Mitzrayim, we were still shmutzik from Mitzrayim. It was only by Har Sinai when he removed the Zuham, all the filth from Mitzrayim. But there's that inyan of leaving Mitzrayim, Kol Zman, you're still shakua in the shmutz of Mitzrayim. That's what he's talking about here. We left Mitzrayim, but we hadn't become Matukan, we hadn't become Masukan, we got Masukan by Har Sinai. So we left Mitzrayim in the state that we were in Mitzrayim, and then we went through and through, and then we came to Matan Torah when he brought us out of that Matzah. And this is possibly the most important, in my opinion, and then Rav Manis said something similar, the most important 6 words in the Tanya. And he says, this is the real pivot. Ach ani loy asisi es atzmi. I didn't make myself.
Can you repeat those words again?
Ach ani loy asisi es atzmi. But I did not make myself. So this is the thing. See, we can get depressed over how low we are, some of the things we do, our condition, our need for taiva, the things that we look at that aren't beseder to look at, the things that we say that aren't beseder to say, the things we think that aren't beseder to think, things we do that aren't beseder to do. But we missed the point that is the reason why we got created. You got given this peckle. You got given this human experience so that you can fix it. And if it was easy, then it's not worth it. That's the whole point of that's what we're here to do. We're here to raise that element of ourself. And that's what it means. I didn't make myself. And this is this is really the most important thing, is by disassociating with this. So you think I'm so rubbish. I do this, I do that, I think this, I say that, yeah? What the Rebbe is trying to explain to us to do here is to peel yourself away from yourself. It's not that you did this and you did that. You are a Jew. You are a Ben Yisrael. Your mamash Givoldik. The Nefesh Bahamis, which is your project, the reason why you got put into this world, doesn't always behave himself. And we need to fix that. But the depression comes from when we identify with that part of ourselves. That's when the depression comes. And not only does the depression come, that's when we become powerless to do anything. But when we can disidentify from that, and we can say, I have a human element, not I am human, I have a human element. And that's my project. That's why I got created. And that's what I'm here to fix. Okay, I screwed up. Let's do better next time. Now we'll make a resolve to move forward from here. But that can only happen when you're looking at it, not as you screwed up, but the behavior is wrong. I heard of Yaakov Weinberg at Sal say, the difference between Yiddish tshuva and Goyish guilt is the Goy says, oy vey, I'm so bad. And the Yid says, the action was bad. The Maisa was off. Needs to get fixed. That's a very liberating force. And not only is it liberating, it's empowering, because now it's not you, it's your project. It's you against that as opposed to me. There's a game to be played now. Okay, and basically, we're basically finished now, but we can say chapter 32 very quickly. If we've done all of this, and this is kind of chapter 32, which is the famous chapter, which is Perek Lamed Beis, which means heart. Yeah, Lamed Beis is heart, Lev. That if we can disidentify with our Nefesh Bahamis, and this is the whole thing when I said about not defining ourselves, by disidentify with our Nefesh Bahamis, we now become identified with our Nefesh Elokis. or we should identify with the Nefesh Elokis. And that is the silver bullet to Ahavas Yisrael. See, Kol Zman, we are identified with our human element. We can only love, all love in the human arena is called an Ahava Talui B'Dava. You're a created being, so when my Nefesh Bahamis loves the Nefesh Bahamis, it's because of things that are appealing to my Nefesh Bahamis. That's called an Ahava Talui B'Dava. So how can you be told to love every Yid as yourself? Yeah, every Jew, that's not possible. Kol Zman, we're identified with the human element of ourself, what makes me unique, then I will only be able to love you when you have qualities that I define or appreciate as being shaykh to me, things that I appreciate. So you can't love everybody. That's just impossible because a lot of people aren't lovable. And then also, how could it be as yourself? You have to love them at the same amount you love yourself. That's the way Rav Manis said it is. That's wildly ambitious. I remember the words. Impossible. Not only can you not love everyone, but to love them as yourself. So the Rebbe flips it over and he says that means loving them as yourself. Means not to love them as much as yourself. It's that you've redefined who yourself is. You now are a Chelek Elikai Mimal. That's your primary definition of who you are. Now, once that's the primary definition, and that's what I love about myself, so to speak, well, that's the same in all Yidden. That's the Neshama from all Yidden. We're all one Neshama. So when I love myself because I'm Jewish, because I have a nefesh, because I'm loving my Nefesh Elokis, then that's I love you in the same way. That's what it means. V'ahavta l'recha kamoicha, as yourself, not as much as yourself. And it's also interesting. We said this many times, but we'll say it again. The chaf. Everyone remembers what you spoke about with the chaf, kamoicha. Why is shem noichach meaning second person? Chaf. Lefanecha. When I'm talking to you, it's the way we add the way we speak in second person is by putting a chaf at the end of the noun. Yeah. See, chaf is keser. Chaf is the level above chokhmah. Chokhmah is yud. When we're talking to somebody face to face, that means we're relating to the actual person, not their name. Therefore, we speak to them in second person. You. How do you feel? How are you? What would you like to do? Yeah, that's the person themselves. That's the chaf. So if you have to recha kamoicha, again, just fits in with everything that we've learned. Is that's the essence of who you are. That's the you, which is by this point we're now Bezrat Hashem relating to ourselves as the Nefesh Elokis, and that is the silver bullet, so to speak, to have a real relationship with everybody, with every other Yid, to love them as the Yid. It doesn't say by the Ger and by the Yosoim and by the Almana we have a mitzvah to love them or to be mechaber them, whatever, yeah, but not kamoicha, because the Ger and the Yosoim and the Almana, it's about them, about their personality or about their situation. It's about their nefesh habahamis. It's about their human, the fact that they're a Ger or they're a Yosoim or they're an Almana, that's a definition on their humanness. That's what makes them special. So I've got a mitzvah by those three sugidon, v'havlecha kamoicha. But on top of that, now there's a mitzvah to love the actual personality, to love the human element of who they are as well. That's not encompassed by the mitzvah v'havlecha kamoicha. The mitzvah v'havlecha kamoicha is the mitzvah of relating to myself on the most profound level of my Yiddishkeit, of who I am as a Ben Yisrael, and therefore I love you in the same way. That's not the mitzvah of loving the Yosom and the Almana and the Ger, where we're actually, that's to do with who they are. That's to do with their personality, to do with their life situation. Very different kind of thing. Was that clear?
You're saying that's Ketzer,
What is?
the relation to the totality of the person?
I'm just like joshing that myself, but that we're relating to exactly the essence of the person on the Jewish level.
Which is their Ratzon or their Oneg or
Yechida, whatever, the essence of their Jewish soul, the godly, the very the part of them that makes them godly, like every other Yid. Okay. So like I said, we covered 3 prakim there, and they're quite big prakim, and it's kedai to, if you've got time to work out, it would be a good investment of time to try and go back to that, because we didn't in any way give the appropriate time to those ideas. So I'm just assuming that you're going to go back and look at it yourself. Again, as always, these sheets that I make are available. This show will be up online tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. That's it. Any questions?
I think we had a new member here today, Moshe Frankel. I don't know if he's been on before, but big shout out to Moshe Frankel, new joined
Moshe,
today.
can we see you? Can you flick on your camera for a minute?
I don't know if he's
Shkoyach, yeah.
Shalom, nice to see you.
Hello, Rabbi.
Shalom Aleichem. Okay, we should all be Zoicha. Any questions?
well,
Yes.
is there going to be go ahead.
Go.
Is there going to be a time for a Chazara test, something? Because it feels like we've done so much in a while, and recently it's like it's my fault. I have to chazer it, but we're going so fast now. It's hard to keep up.
Like I said, I said again, I believe me, I am intent on helping you guys as much as I can, and I've got a whole plan after we finish these shirim. I've got other plans, but it like I've just said over and over, this is a personal project that you have to invest in yourself. No one can give this to you. No one, especially me. I'm just doing the little bit that I can, but there has to be the person. There has to be a chazara. There has to be I mean, they're just
the action taken. You got to take it and act on it and really make it a part. Train, be mechanic, like you say.
exactly.
I'm trying to chazer a parak every day out inside, but
I'll tell
we're already at 33, and I'm at 23.
I'll give you a thing. A parak a day is that's very ambitious. That's a bit. Don't what's the word? Don't be impatient. Have patience with yourself. I'll quote Bill Gates. I think it was Bill Gates said this. He said, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. There's no rush. Yeah, there's no rush, but we need a plan. We need a plan. But the problem is we usually get impatient with ourselves. We try and do like so much, and then it's not as thorough as it could be otherwise. But we'll get it together, because I'll try and make a new test anyway for yeah. Michael, you want to ask something?
Yeah, I just had a question. You go back to the beginning of Psichas Alev, where you talk about being emotionally available, that someone can love greatly, they can also get angry. Can you just talk about that point for a minute?
Just when you're emotionally, I don't want to say get angry, that's not such a good thing to say. I know I did say that, but just for example, a person who's besimcha will be able to mourn very deeply. A person who's in deep simcha, who's in a very open, his heart is alive and open and flowing. There's a free flow of energy. When someone close to him dies, he will be able to mourn in a very deep, real way. That's what it means. It just means you're available emotionally. It means you'll be very excited. And at the same time, you'll be able to feel deeply. You're just emotionally available. You'll be able to empathize with people more deeply. You'll be able to you'll be able to get angrier. You're just there. Your heart's there, and the emotion is there. You're available. That's what it really means. That's called psichas alev. It's a very heilige state to be in. It's very we need to be avodas Hashem. That's the very first thing he says in Tanya. Literally, like the first few lines of the Tanya. is you need to be besimcha, which means you need to be b'psichas alev. You need to be emotionally available. It's the prerequisite.
It's almost in a very simple term, being compassionate, having compassion.
Well, I mean, that's compassion is another that's another meter like Arva and Yira. So Avadai, but I understand what you're saying. You're saying a slightly different thing. I understand what you're saying, but that's it. It just means that there's a free flow of emotion, which is the opposite of Timtum Alev. So a person who's depressed, yeah, it wouldn't affect them particularly if someone dies. They're not there available. They're not emotionally available to feel that. Even and that Ramanis said this that at the beginning of the Tanya, he connects the different the elements like Afa, Ruach, Mayim, and Aish to different character traits. Yeah. So the two that go together, Atzvus goes with Atzlus. Depression and laziness go together. What's the connection between laziness and depression? Because in a sense, I'm not judging anyone here, but in a sense, depression or Timtum Alev is a kind of laziness to experience any emotion. It's not an emotion. Timtum Alev is not an emotion. Depression is not an emotion. It's a lack thereof. That's what depression is. The person's not happy, but he's also not angry. He's also not fearful, not on an anxiety level, but on the emotional level of Gevura, of Yira. He's just not there. So that's why it's connected to Atzlus, because Atzlus and Atzlus, it's like a kind of, like we said, a kind of a laziness to experience an emotion in a sense.
They both come from the soda offer, earthiness.
Exactly.
Also, you could also say that they both stem from a lack of motivation.
Or they lead to a lack of motivation. It's a downward spiral. It's chicken egg thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Shkoyach.
Koyach.
Okay, Shbizoicha, Bezrat Hashem.
Amen.
Sure.